Hi, I just wanted to give a testimony about this beautiful prophetic portrait that Allison made for me. And actually, even how she came to do the painting for me was even a testimony in and of itself. About a year ago or so, I had made an arrangement with another prophetic artist to get a prophetic portrait created for me. And I was really excited about it, but it didn't end up working out. It was one of those things where, like, you know, I was sad, and so I just kind of took it to the Lord, and I was like, you know, I don't know why this didn't work out, but I trust you. But I really kind of wanted that, because at the same time I was like, I want to get to experience what it feels like to be on the receiving end of a piece of personal prophetic artwork, because that's what I do. And so I was like, I want to know what it feels like, you know, to be on the other end of that. And so anyway, so I had kind of just put that on the altar and waited. And so then Allison had found Died For You, I think through YouTube or something like that. She had seen some of the flags and wings and stuff like that, and that is what she feels drawn to. She feels like the Lord has talked to her about doing that. And so she had just contacted me to say, your stuff is so beautiful, I love it, and just to kind of ask, you know, hey, would you be up for doing a little trade? And so I was like, sure. And at that time, I had looked around her website and hadn't seen anything about having a prophetic portrait done or anything like that, but she had some beautiful prophetic art there, and I've worked with a lot of prophetic artists, and so I like to support them. So I was looking, trying to figure out which, you know, piece of prophetic artwork I wanted to trade with her on or something like that. And so she ended up contacting me again, and she said, you know, I've been praying about it, and I really feel like what the Lord said is that I'm supposed to do a prophetic portrait for you. And so even the words were exactly what I had asked the Lord for. So even that in and of itself, like off the bat, I was like, I want her to do this because I already know she hears from God. So that was totally cool. So anyway, so when I first saw it, of course I got to see it online before I actually got it shipped here from the UK, and I totally just loved it and was so excited about what God was downloading, because even before I got to read the Word, there were so many pieces that I could see that were completely on target, that were stuff that she could not have known. The only thing that she knew about me was just the ministry aspect, the scarves. So other than that, she didn't know me from Adam, and so she didn't know anything at all, which makes it so fun, right? Because that's what prophetic is. So anyway, after I got the Word, I was even more blessed, because again, just tons of stuff that was right on. So I'm just gonna, in no particular order, I'm gonna go through. I've made like a little cheat sheet. That's why I keep looking down. So I got my cheat sheet here so that I don't miss anything. So the first thing was, she made me a tree, which this is a very big deal to me, because God has been talking to me about being rooted and stuff like that. And so I actually had a word in October about the fact that my roots were going down deep. So there was a lot of talk about roots. Even when Carol from the Scent of Heaven and I created the faith oil, we included cedar in it. And so I always identify cedar with faith, because of the fact that the roots go down so deep so they can't blow over. And even though this isn't a cedar tree, it's a tree with roots. And the roots are specifically in it. And one of the other things I loved about that was that it makes me think of Psalm 1, which is one of my life scriptures, which, you know, the tree planted by living water. And so I just loved that. And also what I liked is the fact that it's white, which I know is me being the bride, which I'll come to later, but the white tree, you know, the white tree with the peely bark, the birch trees, those are like my favorite tree. And so I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I'm my favorite tree. I was like, that's so cool. So anyway, so I just thought that was neat. The other thing that I loved about it is God's been talking to me a lot about abiding. I've spent a lot of time in John 15, just praying over that and talking about abiding and bearing fruit. And so what I loved is the fruit of my tree is the ministry that he's given me. And so I love that, because then I'm like bearing fruit all over the place. And it's good fruit, because I have testimonies too, which is exciting. Okay, so one of the verses that she had said in the Word that went along with it was Isaiah 61, which is also a life scripture for me. You know, the whole concept of, you know, beauty for ashes, because that's part of my own personal testimony of how God has brought me through some stuff, and it's also part of my ministry, and that I'm constantly trying to help others go through that transition process. And so I just loved that. The other thing is that as she was actually creating the painting for me, and of course I had no idea that Isaiah 61 had anything to do with it, but at the same time that she's creating the painting, Carol and I from the Scent of Heaven were creating the Isaiah 61 oil. And so those two things were happening simultaneously. So I just thought that was kind of neat. And then also, one of the other things that I loved was down here, Daughter of the Most High, you are the apple of my eye. The thing that was really cool about that is that apple of my eye is a catchphrase with me and the Lord. The very first spontaneous song that I ever sang to the Lord talked about the fact that I wanted to be the apple of his eye. And so that has deep personal meaning for me. And one of the things that I love anytime you're dealing with, the prophetic, it's always cool when you hit somebody's catchphrase, because everybody has them. Everybody has like that secret code language that like the Lord knows, and that like when he says it to you, you're like, oh, that's what you're talking about, and it's like, and so when you hit that, especially when you hit a bunch of those, it's like, it can't be coincidence if you hit enough of them. And so that's really cool, because there was a number of things in the painting that were sort of catchphrases for me, or things that he talks to me about. And so it's kind of fun to get to see that, because for the artist, it's just a confirmation. Okay, good, I'm hearing him. That's exactly right on. So anyway, that was kind of cool. And the musical notes are also totally right on, because I've actually been taking piano lessons. The Lord told me that I was supposed to learn how to play the piano so that I could be a psalmist and sing to him. And so I've been doing that. So that's what the notes were about. And then also, he had her add the key down here. And she said, I'm not sure why he had me add it. Well, to me, God uses keys to represent authority. And so to me, part of what he's talking to me about is the level of authority that he's given me to walk in the ministry, because again, the fruit is the ministry. And so that was an awesome confirmation there as well. I love the fact that we have the big red rose right in the middle. First of all, I love it because she felt like what he was saying was that he was romancing me, and so, which he has been talking to me about that, this whole like wooing thing and being ardent. And so those are some of the things that he's been talking to me about actually for a while. And so I really loved that. The other thing that I loved is that my absolute favorite flower in the whole world is the red rose. It also is the only flower that I have found thus far that somebody can give me that I don't have an allergic reaction to. So yes, if he was going to be loving on me, he would be giving me a red rose. So that was really cool. I really liked that. And then also the fact that Allison painted me as a bride, which is really cool, because again, like many other people, the whole bridal paradigm has just been coming up a lot recently. And so I think that that's a word that speaks to a lot of people right now. And that's one of the things that I really that I thought was cool also, is I know that Allison also sells prints. So actually, if you like this, you may buy a print of this from her website, and I will include a link both on my YouTube and on my blog, so that you can go and see it online if you should want to purchase it. But one of the things that I have found personally as someone who creates prophetic art is the fact that sometimes you're hearing the word that God's downloading, but God's downloading to you in a way that you will hear the right thing to say to someone else, who's then going to filter it through their own personal filter. So like sometimes as an artist, you think you know why God's telling you to put something in there, and then they hear it a totally different way, but it's exactly what they needed to hear. And so it's like a planned telephone game, how God works with that, which is so cool to me how he does that, because he knows how I'm going to receive it as the artist, and he knows how the recipient is going to receive it as the person receiving the gift. So anyway, okay, forgive me, I have to pause for a second because my husband's here. Excuse me. Hi. He's mailing the Died For You packages. Okay, so one of the other things that I really liked was his banner over me is love. Because first of all, that's something that the Lord has been talking to me about. Actually, even from the beginning of Died For You, that was something that came up very early on. But even before Died For You, he was talking to me about the whole concept of banner. Actually, I think it's been like 7 or 8 years ago now since he actually had me get a ring that has Yahweh Nisi etched into it. It's actually cut out in Hebrew. And my husband got a matching one. We got him a matching one then. And so we both have that, and that means the Lord my banner. And so he had started talking to me about banners probably like 2 years before Died For You was ever even in the picture, and I had not thought of it at all, if you know any of the history of Died For You, although I definitely hadn't thought of it. So that was really cool. So the whole banner thing was very cool to me. And one of the other things up here in the banner is that she had the Israel over here and then the Aleph. And And one of the things that was really neat was even the timing of when the painting arrived, when she sent it to me. It actually arrived the very weekend that my husband and I switched home churches to go to a Hebraic roots church. And so God is very much taking us into, Israel and the Hebrew roots and all of that stuff. And so I thought that was appropriate, the Aleph being there, because it's the first letter of the alphabet, so it's the beginning. And so I thought that was kind of fun. Also, the Aleph represents being a leader, and so that is something that he's called me to as well. So again, there was multiple meanings. So again, there's meaning all over the whole painting, which is just so cool to me. And so actually one of the other things I spent some time pondering was some of the colors, because of course, doing what I do, dyeing, I'm very into color, and God talks to me through color all the time, and so color is very important. And so one of the questions that I get a lot of the time with people with scarves is like, well, wouldn't God send me a scarf that's my favorite color? And the answer is no, not necessarily. It depends on what he's trying to say. Actually, one of the things that God likes to do to me is he likes to send me things that are orange, because I hate orange. It is my least favorite color. So when he sends me something that's orange, it always gets my attention. And so actually, I was really grateful when I got this and saw that the whole thing wasn't orange. You will notice though that he gave me a big old orange one right here in the middle. And for me, whenever he's talking to me about orange, I always know he's talking about harvest, which how can you be mad at that? So anyway, that was really cool. One of the other things I noticed is that the scarf that's actually hanging off on my arm looks very much like the deep worship scarf, which is one of my popular style scarves. And so I liked the fact, here we've got the notes everywhere, and then we've got deep worship hanging off of my arm, where I'm very much a worshiper. And so this was just, that again, very apropos. And so I pondered actually for a while the pink and the blue, because they're very distinct colors. And so I was like, what's that about? And so I was like, the blue, actually, God had talked to me earlier this year. He actually had one of my intercessors, who's also a customer, bought a gift for someone like last September or something. And when she got it, I said to her, I just feel like this scarf is supposed to be a bigger size. I'm going to upsize it for you for free. And she was like, oh, okay. And so there's this whole word that goes along with it. It was called Open Heaven, and it was this color blue. Turned out the gift was for me. I upsized my own scarf. Anyway, so this blue resonated with me because it was the same color that she had given me the scarf in. And so again, I think the blue here was for Open Heaven. As I prayed about the pink, it goes with the romance and the bridegroom's heart kind of theme, and so that made sense. But I kept chewing. I was like, pink and blue, pink and blue. What's the deal with that? And so when I was talking with my piano teacher, who's also a good friend of mine, and she knows, a lot of what goes on with me. And so she said to me, she just started giggling when I asked her. I was like, what's the deal with the pink and the blue? She starts laughing, and I said, what? And she said, well, they're baby colors. And I was like, oh, because you see, I had my 40th birthday this year, but in the last 6 months, 9 months, something like that, I've had probably like 8 to 10 words that I'm gonna have a baby. So, I have no idea, but we'll find out. But that was interesting at the very least. Okay, excuse me, babies, hold on. I can't help but giggle. Anyhow, so those are just some of the things that that the Lord spoke to me through this painting, and there are others as well, but it was just that those are just a few of them. And so I just love it and have loved being on the receiving end of this awesome personal prophetic word. Thank you so much, Allison. I just pray blessings upon you and upon your ministry, and thank you.